All right. Some good news for Penn State fans. They are getting a night whiteout game, Tom. Exciting there for your folks over on that side. Let's talk about that, and then we'll talk a little bit about that game against Oregon. But are you surprised by this? Like, is it a little bit of a shock, like in a good way?
I don't know if it was necessarily a shock. It was just the consensus among Penn State fans was finally. So this is the first whiteout game that is actually going to be against Penn State's biggest home opponent at night since 2019, which was the entire purpose of the whiteout when it came into existence in the mid 2000s. Some of those early whiteouts where it's just a student section whiteout, then turned into a full stadium whiteout, were late afternoon and it turned into the evening. And as they realized what the product was there in Happy Valley, they're like, this has to be a night game. It's become a spectacle. You have heard countless sportscasters call it perhaps the best or one of the best environments in all of college athletics, in all of sports potentially. So for the longest time, because of Big Noon freaking kickoff on Fox, this game that was often the biggest home game on Penn State's schedule would get bumped to noon, and thus a whiteout in broad daylight really doesn't have the same effect. The fans were going to be in full throat. It was going to be maximum capacity. The excitement for the game was still going to be there, but the spirit of the whiteout, the purpose of the whiteout, had been lost for many years. Now you get it against the biggest home opponent on Penn State's schedule, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Penn State hosting Oregon in September on the 27th. And on top of that, it's been pointed out, there is a chance that this is the first ever top 5 versus top 5 matchup within the whiteout game itself. So this is really, really exciting. I think Penn State versus Oregon very early on is going to be an intriguing matchup, and something I've talked about on my own podcast, State of State, a Penn State football show with Justin King, is that Oregon comes into this with a first-year starting quarterback in Dante Moore within their program. I understand people are going to point towards his experience at UCLA, highly touted recruit, sat behind Dylan Gabriel last year. He should have firepower and a nice system to work with Oregon this year, but still, I've seen transfer veteran quarterbacks walk into the whiteout, and if you're wearing white pants, you can tell they're struggling. Well, we all remember Shea Patterson from 2019, transfer from Ole Miss to Michigan. They couldn't even snap the ball on Michigan's first offensive play of the game. So I'm very excited about this as a fan. Ultimately, Penn State fans have to thank Ohio State, because Big Noon and Fox went with 3 Ohio State games right off the bat that they won for Big Noon. Ohio State versus Texas, Ohio State versus Penn State, which is in Columbus on November 1st, and then, of course, the game, Ohio State versus Michigan. All very logical choices, and let's be honest, Fox has been adoring Ohio State and Michigan for quite some time now, so it makes sense. Ohio State is a ratings draw, more so than Penn State, unfortunately. I'd love to say that that's different, but that's the case. I'm just excited that this spectacle of college athletics is finally in the right place. And I'm a big fan of NBC now. I'm really excited. If Todd Blackledge gets to call it, I'm in heaven. I'm excited.
I was trying to look through the schedule to see who the Big Noon would be that week. Ohio State plays at Washington, so they're certainly not going to make that like a 9 a.m. kickoff.
Oh, please do. Let it be a 5 a.m. wake-up call out there.
Let Damon Williams go off, man. I'd be all
right. Listen, the college football addiction, prove our addiction. We'll go out to Seattle and do a live show there for that game.
BYU Colorado's already announced at 10:15. Again, that would be, a really early kickoff. USC Illinois could be the Big Noon kickoff. This is not at all what the segment is about, trying to figure out what they're going to do. That game is in Illinois.
Champaign.
That's an interesting game.
That could be it. They could also 6-day option it. So we'll see.
I won't spend too much time on this just real quickly. Just for Tom's perspective, I 100% agree. There is atmospheres and there are environments that are meant to be put on a pedestal. And the whiteout game in Happy Valley at Beaver Stadium is a one-of-one experience. If you haven't been to there, you don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been to there, and yet even as an outsider, an SEC foe in the eyes of some people in the Big Ten, I respect what the whiteout game means. That should be a standalone product, especially in a matchup against 2 teams that are going to be top 10, more than likely going into this game, with 2 great rushing attacks, with 2 stellar defenses, with 2 coaches that are trying to prove I'm the next big thing, or I'm the next big thing, and I'm the guy that can finally get over the hump and not be this 10-2 running joke in this conference to where every few years we wonder who's going to be that next breakout team, and I'm just sitting there in tier B. This is a spectacle. This is an absolute privity. This is one of those games that when you look back, it needs to have its moment in the sun. And thankfully, Big Noon Kickoff said, let's give it to them. We're okay with not having this game be absolutely front and center stage. NBC, go have at it. Enjoy your night in Happy Valley. Make this the matchup that people are going to be gravitating to. Because if you're a good fan of college football, it doesn't matter if you're an SEC fan, an ACC fan, or a Big 12 fan. The game of the week is going to be in State College, Pennsylvania, in the Big Ten. You want to be fixated on it. Make sure that you go ahead and DVR the other games because this is the spectacle that you're going to be watching.
So, little pushback there. Georgia, Alabama is the same day. So we do have two. Like, but here's a question: is ESPN going to go head to head with that, or will they take the 3:30 slot to not go head to head?
I think they take the 3:30 slot.
If it's top 5 versus top 5, I don't know if I'd want to do that.
Well, I mean that's kind of the.
They could both be top. They could both be.
That's a good point.
They could be like 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 5, or something like that. Like that could be. Whew.
I think the part of it is that last year Alabama got the game at night, and the ratings were through the roof, and that does mean something. So knowing that what this matchup could mean for the status of the Big Ten, and the thing is with the SEC, and this is not a shot at the Big Ten, Tom, and this is not a shot at the Big Ten people that love to come in the comment section and say SEC homerism reigns supreme. In the SEC, you lose this game, your season's not entirely over. You can find a way to drop a ball and then win out against Texas and Tennessee, and then you play Florida if you're Georgia, and still go 11-1 and make it to Atlanta. And people are going to view you because of the way that you have been dominating for the last decade as still a threat. Alabama can lose this game because if it is on the road in Sanford Stadium, and it is a match bringing in a quarterback very early on in his tenure. So this is one of those games where Alabama might be able to get everything together by the time they play LSU or when they travel to Como to face off against Missouri or the Auburn game or when they have to go to South Carolina or when they welcome in Oklahoma or when Diego Pavia comes to town. They may have all their things together, and at that point, Alabama's not out of the running. Alabama's just going to use this as revenge fuel when they get to Atlanta to go get round 2 against Kirby Smart. But for Penn State and for Oregon, once again, this feels like a 4-team race in the Big Ten, where it feels like an 8-team race or a 6-team race in the SEC. You drop a game, well, all you need is for Tennessee to beat Georgia or for Florida to beat Texas or for Texas to beat A&M, and there we go. Look at that. You're right back in the running. With this matchup, you may be splitting hairs. Oregon versus Penn State. Each finish 11-1, but that head-to-head carries a little bit more traction because if you lost to Penn State. So Penn State's going to Indianapolis, and you're just going to go to the college football playoff. I think that means a little bit more. See, I'm actually defending the Big Ten here on why it should be the primetime game, despite me also saying, listen, nobody's going to be talking about Rutgers and Nebraska, and maybe even I would go so far to say Michigan State this year, the way that we're talking about South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Missouri, maybe going 9-3, 10-2.
Tom, I do want to get your thoughts quickly on just really early thoughts on the game. It's pretty clear where Penn State will have some advantages, quarterback, running back. What about Oregon? This early gives you the most pause or gives you the most concern?
It's just a matter of what is Dante Moore. I think that's the big X factor looking at Oregon and Ohio State this upcoming year. You have first-year starting quarterbacks that are still young quarterbacks. I understand they're upperclassmen, but they're still young. They don't have the experience ultimately on the field. The interesting layer for this game for me is Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles went to Eugene last year and his team lost, and that was a real big point of friction for Jim Knowles within the Ohio State football program the remainder of the year leading up to the national championship. Ryan Day was all over Jim Knowles, and it kind of was part of what led to the exodus of Jim Knowles. Now you get to deal with this Oregon team again, but you have a whole new slate of weapons. How does Jim Knowles flex that defense up against Oregon? I think it will be a 50-50 ball game. Penn State, I think, showed in the Big Ten championship game last year that you can score in this Oregon defense. And a lot of that Oregon defense is gone now. A lot of those guys, especially pass rush specialists, are off to the National Football League. I think there's going to be opportunities for Penn State to run the football. And this is going to be the first of 2 major tests for Drew Aller to prove that he can handle the bright lights. This one, you have everything in your advantage at home, at night, in a whiteout against Oregon, top 5 team in September, good weather, all that sort of stuff. And then later in the year, you've got to deal with Ohio State. It is, unfortunately, the narrative being true against Penn State that it's like a 2-game schedule. There will be some other challenging matchups on Penn State's schedule, but unlike the SEC, to Cole's point, Penn State's got to get past 2 real big games, and everything else they should be expected to win. So I can't wait to see that game. I think it'll be great.
2 things that I'm looking at in this game is who's going to be the eventual wide receiver 1 for Penn State. I really like all 3 additions. Trevor Pena, I think, is going to be good in the slot. Devontae Ross comes on in from Troy, over 1,000 yards last year. And I think Kyron Hudson can be a very quality number 3 option. Or maybe he's the number 1 option, but who eventually takes over that role as the go-to guy in this State College Andy Kotelnicki passing attack. On the opposing side, the thing that's underlying, and I don't think enough people are paying attention to, while Oregon went out and got 3 new offensive linemen, 2 come from the group of 5 level. Isaiah World, who was very much viewed as the number 1 offensive tackle, is coming on in from Nevada. And then you throw in Alex Harkey. He's coming on in from Texas State. And yeah, you have Emmanuel Pegron, who's coming on in from USC. But it's 3 new offensive linemen going up against a Jim Knowles defense that still features really quality players. DDS is still coming off of the edge and choosing violence. They got great depth at the linebacker position. I absolutely love AJ Harris. I think AJ Harris is one of the most slept on defensive backs in college football going into this year. We're not talking enough about how well he played last season. So how quickly can these group of 5 offensive tackles protect Dante Moore when he's trying to find an Evan Stewart, a DeCorian Moore downfield, whoever is your tight end? Because if you get pressure in State College and you're living in 3rd and long, best of luck to you. The thing that we know about secondaries underneath Jim Knowles, elite production. Oklahoma State, Ohio State would like a word.
So call my way too early shot here, but if we really wanted to get crazy, Florida State plays Virginia on a Friday night in Charlottesville, and just 4 hours and change north of that is this Penn State Oregon game in Happy Valley. I know that we'll have to figure out schedules and a lot of things before that, but that would not be the worst. That would not be the worst kind of weekend if we decided to go on the road to take in 2 back-to-back ones. Sorry for the
Twist my arm
not being part of that, but
wait, you mean that we get to go watch one of the coaches in the ACC be fired after this game and then go to a whiteout matchup? Hell yes, I'm all for it.
It truly is like eating your veggies first. Obviously I love Florida State, but it is truly eating your veggies first and watching just say it, shit show before seeing a just premier matchup in college football the night after. So
you're driving to Disney World, but you're watching an 18-wheeler accident pile up in the process. There we go. That's what we're going to see in Charlottesville that night.